So my mother's never been there for me. Then all of a sudden, her narcissism starts to show. She wants to pay for my entire wedding, and this is just so out of character for her. But I finally realize, she wants to pay for my wedding so she can plan the wedding to have the wedding how she wants it. Well, you know what? I devise a plan to make her see how much of a narcissist she really is.
Hey guys, you can call me Jane. I know that was a long title, but it's self-explanatory though. Still, there's a lot of background info I need to share, so this might be a bit of a long one. I need some advice. First, my mother Linda, she's an abusive narcissist. She's been this way my entire life, and our relationship's quite strained as a result. My mother's behavior over the years has even made sure I have a poor relationship with my little sister Emily, who is spoiled, immature, and has received unfairly preferential treatment from my mother my entire life. My mom and I have always butted heads, and I'm not just talking about minor spats, which are normal for a mother and daughter. I've cut off contact with my mom numerous times over the years, but she always finds a way to get to my heart and just win me over back into her life. And then the same thing happens again and again. Ever since I was a little girl, I was fiercely independent and wanted to be my own person. Emily's always been like a miniature clone of my mom, so there's tension all around. Not to ramble too much about the post, but let me just tell you all some of the issues I've had with my mother over the years, so you all hopefully see where I'm coming from. As I said, I've always been independent. My mother has always been financially well off. My father died shortly after I was born and left his fortune to her. Financially, me and my sister were always taken care of, but everything came with an extra cost of stipulation. My mother is not one to simply do something decent out of the kindness of her own heart. Oh no. I remember her promising me dance lessons and even buying me a dress and dancing shoes, and then taking it all back to the store because I did not want to take lessons at her friend's studio. I remember when my mother offered to buy my prom dress and prom tickets in high school, and as you can imagine, I was so happy. But since she said I was dating the quote, wrong boy, she took away my dress and would not give me my ticket. Not to mention how every single Christmas and birthday, Emily was treated like a princess, and I usually never even got a cake. I've been buying my own birthday cake and presents since I started working as a teenager. There are countless other examples of mental and financial manipulation, but those were some formative events in my life and have led me to have the level of distrust and disdain I have for my mother. After the prom incident, my mom offered to pay for all my colleagues. I knew there was a catch. Linda told me she wanted to choose which college I went to and what major would be. I refused, and paid for my college myself, which infuriated my mother. She also offered to buy me a car around that time, but since she wanted to pick out the car I'd get, I'd refused and bought myself a car. You probably get the idea by now. With that background info out the way, that leads us to why I'm here typing all this for you guys today. My fiancé Sam is the best thing in my life right now. He's been everything for me my mother and sister have never been. Supportive, compassionate, generous, mature, and much, much more. I'm hopelessly head over heels in love with this man, and he finally asked me to marry him. I was so excited, and don't get me wrong, I still am, but from the moment Sam asked for my hand in marriage, I've had this sense of dread brewing inside my gut. Why? Because I knew I'd eventually have to bring up the wedding plans with my family, which means dealing with Linda and Emily, something I always dread. First, I'll admit I do have a high level of paranoia when it comes to interactions with my mother. She's the type of person you really have to dot your I's and cross your T's with, so to speak. Any offhanded comments could be held against me later, so I try to stay on my toes. I was a little on edge when I visit my mother's house to give her and Emily the news of my marriage. That being said, and I'm aware this could just be confirmation bias on my part, things were fishy from the moment I stepped in the door. Linda and Emily were sitting on the couch watching daytime soap operas like they always do when I announced that I was getting married. To my surprise, they both acted excited for me, and I did not expect much of a reaction at all. That's when things got even more weird. You see, we were already talking about something else at this point, when out of the blue my mom announces her plans to pay for the entire wedding. According to her, she did not want me to have to spend a single penny on my big important day. Just so everybody knows, that's not how my mother usually talks to me. I insisted that she not pay for the wedding and just allow me and Sam's family to take care of it. But Linda just kept going on, and then Emily joined in by her side. Finally, I outwardly accepted the offer and pretended to be thankful, but deep down, I was highly skeptical of this proposition. I was so taken aback and thrown off by Linda and Emily's uncharacteristic behavior. I made up a quick random excuse for why I needed to leave immediately and drove home as fast as possible. I told Sam about Linda's supposedly generous offer, and he agreed with me that it seems extremely fishy and that I should be on guard for any funny business. But the thing is, of course, Sam would say that. He knows all about the abuse and neglect I've suffered from my mother, so he doesn't even want my mom and Emily at the wedding at all. I can't say I blame him. I know I could just tell them they aren't allowed at our wedding, but trust me when I say that would create more problems than it could possibly solve. Most of the family is unaware of Linda's treatment towards me, and I feel like nobody would believe me anyways. I'd end up looking like the bad daughter who banned her own mother and sister from her wedding. The family and the community would never let me live that down, and as silly as it may sound to those of you out there who aren't privy to the inner workings of my family and community, I simply don't want to deal with the fallout from banning Linda and Emily from the wedding. I voiced all my concern to Sam, and he helped me come up with a plan that might even be better than simply banning my mom and sister from the wedding. It isn't much of a plan yet, but we decided we want to find some way to use my mother's financial help in a different way from what she planned. I know revenge is usually not worth it, it's petty, but I can't help but feel like my mother deserves to know the gravity of how she's treated me over the years. I want to do something retaliatory, but I don't know what yet, and I might sound silly because I don't 100% know if my mom has any unsavory plans for my wedding, but at the same time, I know my mother, and in my experience, actions speak louder than words. My mother's actions have done enough to convince me that she's going to find some way to take control or even ruin my wedding in whatever way she can. Frankly, I don't even believe she's actually happy for me, nor do I believe that about my sister. So, essentially what I'm asking is, am I the a-hole for all of this? Is it wrong of me to use my mother's money the way I see fit? After all, it is my wedding. If she keeps pushing me, I'm going to use this wedding as an opportunity to expose her to the whole family. It's what she deserves, frankly. Some of you might tell me to give my mother another chance, but you better have some convincing reasonings, because right now, as I think and look back at all the horrible and unmotherly things Linda has done to me over the years, I feel the retaliation and making sure mother gets her comeuppance are the only thing that will help me relax. I should not be so tense and stressed out about my own wedding, so guys, give me the best advice you got. If you have any ideas for revenge as well, let me know. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. This story has 5 updates, and oh man, it's about to get real. Update number 1. Well, I'm back. Jane here. I appreciate the wide variety of thoughtful and supportive comments I received on the initial post, and I truly have a lot of viewpoints to consider. Since many of you were asking for it, I decided to give you an update. So, as some of you might have noticed, I was quite livid when I wrote my post the other day. After sleeping in and relaxing over the weekend and spending some time with my husband, I was starting to take a more zen approach to the whole predicament I'm in. I was actually thinking about letting everything go. Look, I'm a headstrong individual, and it's hard for me to forgive and forget past grievances. Some of you were giving some good points on why I should forgive my mother and allow her to just chance to do something nice for me, such as paying for my wedding. Well, I thought about it and decided that, well, what I was going to do. So, hey, if she wants to pay for it, let her, right? But I'm giving you all an update to say things are just getting worse with Linda. Just like my gut told me they would. She gave me a call earlier today to discuss the wedding, our first discussion since I went a few days ago to visit, and gave her the engagement news. I answered the phone and said hello, and she told me she had a great idea for the wedding. Apparently, my mom thought a Hawaiian-themed wedding would be the right choice to make. My Zen approach went right out the window because I immediately objected the idea. First, I don't want to have a Hawaiian-style wedding to begin with, and aside from that, my abusive ex-boyfriend Jimbo, well, he was Hawaiian. I told my mom and tried to explain that I thought Hawaiian weddings are tacky, and that I didn't want a reminder of my ex-boyfriend Jimbo at all. She told me, hey, Jimbo's a nice man, and that she could not understand why I would ever leave him. This almost sent me flying off the handle, but I managed to bite my tongue. I quickly made up an excuse to get off the phone before I blew up on my mother. So guys, do you see what I'm dealing with here? Update number 2. Hey everyone, Jane again. I'm back for another update. So if you're not caught up, last time my mom suggested turning my wedding into a ridiculous Hawaiian luau. No offense to those who like luau weddings, but I was not keen on the idea. The association between Hawaii and my abusive ex-boyfriend Jimbo is just far too great, and I don't want any reminders of him on that day. I told Sam about this, and we talked about it for a bit. We decided we had to get the money from Linda ourselves. If my mother was left to her own devices, she was definitely going to ruin my wedding. This did not surprise me one bit, but when I called Mom and gave her the idea, she was not happy. But I had to put my foot down. It felt nice to stand up to my mother for once, and we got into a bit of a screaming match, but I finally was able to convince her that I should oversee the money. After all, this is my wedding. My mom finally conceded and told me she'd just write me a check for everything up front, and she hung up the phone without saying goodbye or anything. I could tell she was upset, but you know what? I don't care. Frankly, the fact that my mom is upsetting all that confirms that she wanted to control my wedding in the first place. Not to mention the luau nonsense. Any normal mother who had offered to pay for the wedding would not have been meddling in my affairs and trying to make big decisions for me. Anyways, and while I may be glad enough money to pay for the wedding is in my hands, I'm still suspicious my mom is going to try something. The fact that I had the audacity to ask for financial control of my own wedding alone is enough to send Linda into a fit of rage, as evidenced by the phone call. And it's not like the money she's giving me for the wedding is the only money she has. As I said, she's loaded financially from my deceased father. I have no doubt she's willing to sink even more money into this scheme now that I've dared to, quote, cross her. Anyways, now it's time for me and Sam to go down to some wedding planning, so wish me luck. Update number 3. Hey guys, I'm back for yet another update. So, I'm totally shaken right now. I'm not exactly sure how any of you could help me with this, but I'm open to advice as usual. I wish this had not have happened, but I have to get it off my chest and vent to someone. Sam's taken about enough emotional dumping as he can handle, I think. I just don't want to bog him down with too much when, we're under so much stress. Anyways, let me go ahead and fill you on what just happened today. In my last update, I predicted that my mom would retaliate against me for demanding that she gives me the wedding money up front instead of letting her make all the decisions. I'm here to inform you all that, in typical Linda fashion, that's exactly what she did. Earlier today, I was at the accounting firm where I work. For those who aren't aware, accounting is a stressful field on its own, and I've been distracted by all this drama concerning the wedding and Linda, so I've got a lot on my plate. My boss called me up and told me I had a visitor in the lobby. I thought it would be Sam, but who I saw when I was at the lobby made my jaw drop. Right there, standing in front of me, was Jimbo. I actually had a jump scare when I saw him. I would not come within 6 feet of him, but he was pleading with me to come closer to talk. He had some flowers he was trying to give me, but I refused. I asked him what he's doing at my work and accused him of stalking me because there's no way for him to know where I worked. That's when Jimbo told me everything. Just as I had feared when Mom suggested the Hawaiian luau wedding and had the nerve to defend him, turns out my mom invited Jimbo to the wedding behind my back. And to top it all off, my mother gave Jimbo my work address. I immediately told him that he was in fact not invited to the wedding and that he needs to leave the premises right now. You see, Jimbo is a narcissist like my mother. He can't take no for an answer. I had to get security involved to get him to leave, and he's banned from my workplace now, but that's never stopped him before. Why on earth would my mother do this to me? Jimbo used to beat me, abuse me, and she knows this. Update number 4. Hey everyone, I'm back for yet another update, and for once I have some good news to share. Lately, having all this exposure to my past and present abusers, manipulators, the subject of abuse has been on my mind a lot. I've even spent a lot of time dwelling on things my mother has done to me, things my ex-boyfriend has done to me, and things my sister has done to me. At the same time, I've also had an issue with the wedding money my mom gave me. She would not even deliver the check in person, by the way. She mailed it to me from her house. That's only a 10-minute drive. And when I called her to confront her about inviting Jimbo to the wedding, she would not even answer the phone. What a coward! And as I was discussing all this with Sam, it dawned upon me. I realized I needed to use this money not for something frivolous and luxurious like a wedding, but to establish a trust fund for people like me and the countless other victims out there who have suffered abuse at the hands of narcissistic parents and partners. First, some might say it's dishonest of me to use money for something besides what my mother intended it for. But I don't care. It's my wedding. I'll find a way to make it work out because helping victims of abuse is far more important. Another thing, and I'll readily admit this is a tad bit petty on my part. My mom's always been strictly against charity. That's right, she does not trust charities because she, and I quote, doesn't know where the money really goes. And she doesn't want to help the less fortunate directly because she, quote, doesn't believe in handouts. So as wacky as it may sound, using my mother's money to help unfortunate people in need would be the exact way to cut her where it hurts. She loves spending money, but she's not a fan of spending her money on other people. Update number 5. Hey guys, Jane here again. I just wanted to say thank you all for the support, kind words that you've all given me throughout this whole dramatic saga. It's meant a lot to have you folks around to vent, so thank you again. This is my last update. There's a lot to tell, but I'll try to keep it brief. So, if you're up to date so far, you'll know me and Sam decided to use Linda's wedding money to establish a trust fund for victims of abuse. You know, parents and abusive partners and spouses. I did not tell my mother this. In fact, we had not even spoken until the day of the wedding. The wedding went well, although I'm not sure everybody would agree. Turns out my big day was even bigger than I anticipated, so I met with my mom and sister at the wedding, and they were both getting rude. I didn't really mind. Me and Sam had a plan where we were going to execute it, and nothing was going to stop us. My mom was making these snarky comments about my choices of decor, my dress, everything you can even imagine. It did not even faze me because I knew what was coming. When the ceremony began, I yelled out the organ player to stop. I told everyone I had a speech to give, and oh boy, what a speech it was. I could see the surprised look on the face of the crowd. I told everyone thanks for coming to the wedding, and I mentioned that my mother had been quick to let everyone know that she paid for the wedding, but that's when I dropped the bombshell on everybody. I let everyone know that me and Sam were the ones who paid for this lavish wedding. Everybody gasped. My mom immediately stood up, but I told her to sit down before she had an outburst. I sounded angry enough that she listened. I told everyone how I and Sam established a charity fund for victims of abuse. At this moment, my mom starts screaming about how I used her money behind her back, but I shut her down. I flew off the handle and mentioned all the abuse she put me through. I called her out of how she pitted my sister and me against each other and ruined our relationship. I called her out for having the nerve to associate with my abusive ex-boyfriend behind my back. I mentioned everything, dating back to when I was a little girl. To my surprise, Emily stood up and ran to my side to hug me. She apologized and took my side in front of everybody. My mom was so flustered, she stormed out of the church. I have not heard from my mother since then, and I'm fine with that. I'm currently on my honeymoon with Sam, and I'm loving marriage. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for all your help.
Okay, guys, I'll be honest with you. I never really liked the mom in this story. She seemed like a jerk. But I lost any little shred, little ounce, little minuscule amount of respect I had for her when she brought Jimbo in. Jimbo was an abusive, toxic piece of crap who laid his hands on OP and their past relationship. I don't know what a mother would be thinking to bring in an abusive ex. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about this story. How would you go about handling it if you were in OP's position and your narcissistic mother wants to go ahead and make your wedding day all about her? So drop your comments down below, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing day. And remember, if you want more daily videos, all you gotta do is subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.